Hello, I am going to talk about Said Amir Kulal. He was born in the village of Sukhar. He died around 1400, 1401. His family were Said, meaning that they were descendants of the Holy Prophet. When he was in utero, it is said that his mother was unable to even put food that was unclean towards her mouth, and that this happened so many times, she realized she had someone special in her womb. So she was very careful to choose only the best and assuredly halal food for her infant. In his childhood, he became a wrestler and practiced all of the arts of wrestling, and he became one of the most famous wrestlers in his area. People questioned him about being a descendant of the prophet and choosing this as a way to spend his time. One day, Sheikh Samasi stopped and stood at the entrance of the arena where he was wrestling, and one of his disciples that were walking with him asked him about it, and he said, quote, "I am standing here for the sake of one person. He is going to be a great knower. Everyone will come to him for guidance, and through him people will reach the highest states of divine love and divine presence. My intention is to bring this person under my wing." End quote. That is why he stopped at the entrance of the wrestling arena. And at that moment, Kulal left wrestling and began following Sheikh Samasi. Followed him for 20 years. So this is important in Sufism because lineage is one way to show that you have authority. So the lineage is roughly Samasi, and then Kulal, and Naqshband. So the Naqshbandi are probably the most well-known Sufis, or Sufi order in the United States. I'm not sure about other places. I just know about the Naqshbandi here. So the lineage, silsila, is important because it's part of the process of being known, as Bashir says, of one of God's powerful friends. So he has this lineage, and he's also known as quite a holy man. He spent most of his time in dhikr, in seclusion, in worship, and in self-denial. So part of this is Sharia. Another important step in becoming known as a friend of God. So it's not only keeping the law, but having stories told about how you kept the law to show how holy a person is and that they are important. And this gives authority not only to the sheikh, but to the sheikh's followers as well, if they've got these stories of the lineage and I guess you would call it miracles, is what we would call it, right? I was explaining this to my husband when I was researching this, saying that just as much as Christians have their saints, and there are stories told with them about, somebody went to them and they were miraculously healed, it's the same in the Sufi tradition as well. And so Kulal has several stories about him. There's one example of Kulal telling his companions about various activities that occur in Hajj, even though he himself had never been to Mecca. So when someone asked him about that, how could you have this authority when you've never been there, don't know what you're talking about, he said that the ability to see is not dependent on physical proximity. So he's saying that he was able to see and understand without having to actually attend Hajj. So for 20 years, I'll go back to following his Sheikh Samas, and every Monday and Thursday he would walk to visit him, even though the distance was 5 miles from his home. It was a difficult journey, and he continued this until he reached, they say, the state of mystical unveiling, mukashafa. And it was at that point that his fame began to spread, because he was able to, people knew that he was traveling without actually physically leaving. Another piece that I'd like to talk about is how food plays a part. So food is the mediator between the physical and the metaphysical for Sufis. Um, it must be halal, it must be legal, might kind of use the word kosher as a way to explain it. Not exactly, but works pretty well. And then sharing it is important as well, feeding the community. So again, there are lots of miraculous stories told of Kulal concerning food. One of them is about a lamb that was given as a gift to him but ran away. The lamb, however, voluntarily returned as Kulal had predicted and laid its head down as an offering. Another story is the man who trapped geese, and his purpose of trapping the geese was specifically he wanted to give the finest 2 of the geese to Kulal, but a ruler stopped by and demanded one of them. The man protested, but it was to no good. The ruler took it and had it cooked, but when it was served to him, it was so hot that it blinded him. In his repentance, he sent a horse to Kulal as a token of his apology, and after Kulal had received the horse, within a few days the man's sight returned. So this is one of the ways of showing the power of the sheikh, the power of that God has given him. Another food story is about when Kulal was on his deathbed. He was worried about the community being fed when a voice from the unseen world said, "We cast our mercy on you, your friends, and all those who have a connection to your kitchen." And from that point, no one in his community needed to worry about having food. I'd like to read a piece from Sufi bodies that Kulal is said to have said. Know that the purity of heart, tongue, and body derives from the legally sound morsel. Think of the human stomach as a pool that contains water flowing out to the rest of the body in the form of streams. Every organ that comes into being from this pure water is pure itself and beneficial, according to the prophet saying that whoever eats legally sound food for 40 days, God opens the eyes of knowledge and wisdom on his heart and tongue and illuminates his heart. There we are talking about the heart again. This becomes available when he turns himself into a person equipped with piety. Whoever is on the correct path in this world will be on the correct path in the next world. So that's another important piece to Kulal. Obtaining this purity of heart, purity through eating, purity through all of his sacrifices in order to be pure in the next. There's several names that have been given to Kulal. He is known as the rose of the characteristics and attributes of the prophet. He's also known as the owner of the throne of guidance. He was quite a leader. It is said that Naqshband would not be who he was had he not followed Kulal. He's also the attractor of heavenly blessings and the teacher with his holy breath of the secrets of the divine. So those are some of the things that I have learned so far about Kulal. I guess I would say that I'm impressed. One of the things that I find important about him is that he, even though he himself chose not to, or chose to be very careful with what he ate and denied himself quite often with food, he was very generous in giving to the community and making sure that those around him had enough to eat, and that it was not only healthy, as I read before, but good in the eyes of God, so that it would not only feed them physically, but feed them metaphysically as well, so that they could continue to grow and to learn to love God and follow in the footsteps of their master and teacher. So I think that's about all that I have on Kulal. I appreciate you listening to me, and this is, again, this was about Sayyid Amir Kulal and his followers. Thanks so much.